everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cool Down. And today we have a very, very special guest. It's something I've been trying to do for a while, and we got him. We've got him, Selo. Chris, I don't know how you pronounce your surname. Is it Polish? Pajak?
It is Pajak, yes. Well done. Honestly, that's incredible. We say Pajak in England, but it's actually, I suppose it's Pionk. Really, okay. But there's a little Sicilian under the A. It doesn't matter. Whatever, it's cool.
Nice. Okay, that's when you start.
Are you Polish?
No. Me dad's mum and dad were Polish, and his brother and sister were born over there. But he was born in England in like a Polish resettlement camp during after the war.
Oh, okay, pretty cool.
Yeah, that is an interesting.
Yeah, interesting having a Polish heritage there all the way in Liverpool.
I know, it's mad, mate, honestly. So, like, me granddad was a prisoner of war, and like 13 years, give or take, was in between seeing his wife. And so there's a 13-year age gap between my dad's older brother and sister and him and his little brother were like a year when they met together in England, and then they've just all scattered around the country now. But my dad and his older brother came to Liverpool, and my dad stayed there. Like,
so then, how did he become a Liverpool fan? Did he just obviously
move to Liverpool? Yeah, he was born down south, a year or two down south, and then he came up to Stafford. And then he grew up in Stafford. He's a bit of a rugby man, my dad. And then he come to Liverpool, and like rugby's nowhere near as big, so we just picked a local side. So this is like sort of, well, would it have been like late 70s, something like that. And he just wanted to start going to the footy and stuff like that. So became a Liverpool fan, which is why I've been brought up a Liverpool fan.
Proper. That's luckily Liverpool was the dominant team back then. You could have been an Everton fan if it was a different time.
I tried to be. When I was 2 years old, I was going to nursery, and I come back from nursery one time, and I was like, my two best mates from nursery were both Blues and stuff, and I think Everton had just won an FA Cup or something like that, and I came back and I went, Dad, I'm going to be an Everton fan, and he went, no, you're not, son. You're not coming back in the house. And he locked me outside the house. So I was like 2 years old. He locked me outside the house. I lasted about 30 seconds, cried my eyes out, and then I came in, and I've been a Liverpool fan ever since. So yeah, like genuinely, I could have very easily have been an Everton fan. And my brother, funnily enough, did the same trick. And my brother, like 2-3 years old, just walked off up the street. Instead, like I was crying my eyes out, and my brother just walked up the street, and my dad had to run out there and grab him, because obviously you can't have a 3-year-old running up and down the streets. And my brother's been a Blue ever since, like, so yeah, there you go.
Jeez.
There's a little mad story for you.
So I suppose, I mean, we're going to touch on it later with the Liverpool-Everton result, but I mean, that must have been an interesting atmosphere at your place over the weekend.
Thankfully, I don't live with him anymore, mate, because it would have been horrible had I lived with him. But I got a few text messages and stuff like that. Like, I don't go, like, we have our banter and stuff like that, but I don't go in hard and stuff like that, because, to be quite honest, I felt sorry for him for a long time because of the results just weren't going their way, and he didn't need me to go in on him. He's enjoyed this weekend, shall we say, and he deserves to enjoy it. Like, Everton with a better side, and they won the game, and like, if it had been that long the other way, we'd have been in town, mate, and they weren't even able to do that. So I don't begrudge Everton fans having a little victory and having a little win, although it hurts. You know what I mean?
It's their Premier League title.
Well, yeah, maybe. It's been absolutely massive for them, hasn't it? It's been unprecedented, hasn't it? What happened? You know, that's just a ridiculous number of years. I mean, 1999 since you win at your rival's place, that's just crazy. And, you know, a long time even since they've just beaten us. So we've had a good run. And if it was going to happen, it was going to happen in this season while we're in this form, wasn't it? So, yeah, you just got to get used to it, I suppose.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, if as a Liverpool fan, you won't be too upset about this as well. Like you said, it was time, it's coming. I mean, Henderson going off for the first 20 minutes, it's just one of those seasons where we can write off. But before, again, we talk about the game, Chris, there are a couple of questions have come in. And one of the questions that were asked was, do you ever get any calls from the club, Liverpool that being, with regards to what is said on the show from a Redmen TV perspective? Never. So they just let you run autonomously.
Yeah, they're nothing to do with us. We've had it once where someone from the club has reached out, and that was in 2013-14, when when Gerrard slipped after that game, I said some things that I massively regret. Probably a lot of people will know about it. It was basically along the lines of, if you don't know what it is, I basically called all Chelsea players rent boys. Now, I didn't know back then that rent boys was synonymous with being a slur on homosexuals. And somebody reached out from the football club to say, just saying, we've had this thing, this video's been said, it's really homophobic and all that type of stuff. That's the only time they've ever reached out. And we pulled that video down because obviously you don't want to offend people. It went massively viral and all that type of stuff, and it was terrible, to be honest with you, for quite some time, because we kind of became known from that video, and lots of Liverpool fans loved it. But I cringe whenever I hear that little video clip, because it went onto Vine, and when Vine was massive, it went everywhere, like a little bit like TikTok now, I suppose, in that type of thing. Something can just go viral really, really quickly. And it did, unfortunately, and it for the wrong reasons. If you want to go viral, you want to go viral for a good reason. You don't want to go viral for a homophobic slur or anything like that. And I genuinely believe that what I meant was, like, they're just going to take the money, the players, and they're going to move on, and they don't feel that love for the football club. And that's what I didn't express. I expressed it with a homophobic slur, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
When you say all of that, it reminds me, Claudio's favorite thing to say on our show is that Liverpool is a family club. So I think it touches on to what you're saying, that Chelsea isn't a family club, it's a corporate club, as Claudio always says. So but just what do you think of the owners that have obviously kind of saved Liverpool from the Hicks and Gillett days?
Well, listen, I like what they've done at the club. There's a part of me that wishes that we could go out and spend £150 million on a player, but that's just not our club, unfortunately. I think you've just got to accept that sometimes. I think when you look at the job that they've done on the whole, they're not without fault. They've made loads of mistakes along the way, trying to hike the ticket prices to £77 and trying to furlough staff, and they're just two off the top of my head that I can think about. And they've done loads of things wrong, but they've done loads of things well. There was a 30-year wait for a title. They've managed to deliver that. We've won a European Cup. We've built us to a solid foundation for the football side that I don't think will be dismissed anytime soon. We've been trying to claw back into the Premier League and get in that title race for a long time. And they've managed and enabled us to do that, haven't they? So I think there's a lot of good stuff that they've done. But like all owners, they do make mistakes, and you have to hold your owners to account. And I think that's what Liverpool fans have been able to do. Whenever they've come out and they've made a mistake, Liverpool fans have mobilised, spoken about it. Sometimes we've been on the picket line, and we've walked out of the stands in opposition to what the owners are doing. And thankfully, our owners have changed their mind each time they've made a horrendous mistake. They didn't end up furloughing the staff, and they didn't rise the ticket prices to £77. There are a lot of clubs owners that would have done that anyway, regardless. So I think, all told, they've been good owners for us, although they could spend a little bit more money.
No, that's understandable, I guess. Especially when you see the Manchester clubs are spending a bit more, and obviously Chelsea spending so much. You just ask yourself, like, how can we compete, and how can we, stay up with these clubs? But I think, you guys have done well, and it's something to admire as other fans. But just on the fan channel side, where do you think the direction of fan channels is going? Because obviously, you guys have grown massively, and then I look at a rival fan channel like United Stand that's also like quite big. Obviously I know you guys have each other on each other's shows often when it's a Man United Liverpool game. So, but where do you think the fan channels will go in the next like 5 or so years?
I'm not sure where they'll go, but I know that they're here for the long run. I think what a lot of fans crave is the truth, and just other fan opinion and stuff like that. I'm not saying that we talk the truth. Do you know what I mean? I think we'll tell it as we see it. We'll tell our opinions as we see it. So I think that they're here. I think there was a niche in the market, wasn't there? Where I think a lot of pundits tell you one way. Clubs television channels are very much They don't want to say anything bad about the team and the club, obviously, for obvious reasons. So you're not getting the truth as a fan sees it from those outlets. So I think fan channels are going to be here, and we crave other people's opinions. We want other people's opinions, whether we agree with them or we disagree with them. We like things that make us question our opinions as well. I think, I always like to think that, I'm not going to be right every time I have an opinion, but at least I've thought about it. At least I'm not going to jump to a conclusion dead quickly on things. But I'm always going to tell you the truth as I see it. And I think a lot of people like that, and, there'll be people out there that say you don't. And there'll be people out there, and I know that there are people out there who say like, yeah, the club pay you. It's rubbish. Like, I just don't happen to see it like you see it, which is fine. You're allowed your opinion. I'm allowed my opinion. That's the thing. We're not like, we don't pretend to be the voice of the fans. We're just us being us, talking about the football. We're not trying to pretend that we are the voice of every Liverpool fan around the world. That's not what fan channels are. Fan channels are ultimately just a few people with a few opinions that want to talk about football. But so I don't really know what's going to happen in the future. A lot more live content seems to be the way that it's going now. And obviously because of COVID and everything else, everyone's been able to do this stuff, which I think brilliant, because I would never have been able to do this show with you guys today had it not been for the what am I allowed to say what platform we're on now? Because of all the platforms like Skype and Zoom and StreamYards, and they've made it really easy for everybody to get in touch with people and speak to people, and that's good, because that just means you're widening your knowledge and your understanding of what other people think from around the world. Like, so we can get people on. Very early on in the pandemic, we were getting Liverpool. We got Jose Enrique on from Spain. Got Guillem Balaguer on from Spain, and all this type of stuff, because it's now just accepted that you can do this, and it's quite cool because you open yourself up to a load of other people that you wouldn't have been able to speak to previously.
No, that's true. Yeah, it is pretty cool, because if you watch like even the mainstream ones like Skype and everything, and then they call guys from Nigel Reo-Coker's in the US, and they're talking to him about something, and Gabriel Brownlow is somewhere, and they obviously, when they talk about certain clubs and everything, so it is pretty cool that you can connect with so many other people. Obviously, it's due to this pandemic, which has opened up so many doors for people to connect, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, the platforms have stepped up as well. Like, I mean, the platforms, they're there now. Like, Zoom's made it really easy for people to do this type of thing. StreamYard makes it really easy for us, and we can all do it now with our mobile phones for the most part. If we haven't got a PC, like, all you need is a mobile phone, and if you've got good internet or whatever, you can do this type of stuff. When we started Redmen, it was 2010. Like, you couldn't do it with your phones in 2010. Like, the technology hadn't caught up. And I think that's the other thing now, is that anybody can do a fan channel pretty much, which opens it up even more. Just means there's going to be more people talking about it, which is really great. And, I get on with Mark Goldbridge from the United Stand. I think I think his content's really funny. I think it's really different. You've got to respect what he's been able to do. And that's the thing. Ultimately, it's just a community of people who are all talking about football. And, people might not like it. People like it. People love it. People don't like it. That's fine. Like, it's always going to be though, because there's loads of people that really like it. And we get this all the time. People say to us, we feel like we know you, and we feel like we know the city a little bit more for having you speak on it. That's brilliant from where we are, because that's one of the reasons that we started it in the first place. And we've created this community around us and around the football that people enjoy it, and they go into the chats. We've got Discord groups and Facebook groups where people are talking about football all the time. They're really just cool platforms that people get involved in. Like, so it's really wicked, man. It's incredible what's sprung up around the fan channels. I know we've got like a website where people subscribe to, and some of the lads in there in our Discord group, they like the Discord's as much a part of us as Redmen as watching the videos, they were saying, because they enjoy the interaction with people, and it's people from all over the world that have the same similar viewpoint to you that you can talk with. Lots of people. I'm lucky. I go to footy with people, but there's loads of people all around the world who might support Liverpool, and they might be the only Liverpool fan that they know, and we've been able to give them people to talk to and stuff like that. And that's amazing, because I'm an NFL fan as well, so I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I don't know any Minnesota Vikings fans, and there's no Minnesota Vikings fan TV as far as I'm aware. But
get in the market.
Well, yeah, it'd be nice if there was that little community where I could get involved in. You know,
Yeah.
and from the flip side of it. So I know that I crave something like that on the back end. So it's nice that we've been able to do it with Redmen for other people.
But Chris, when you're talking about this and you're talking about community engagement, and I think that's the huge part. And for us, to Tselo's point and to what you're already saying, to get you onto the show for us, or for me in particular, is huge because, like you said, I'm a South African and I'm engaging with a guy who lives in Liverpool, who's fully immersed in it, and he's got his own platform going, something we're trying to do here. And it's super, super rad that we can connect on that level. But one of the questions I want to ask you in terms of how would you go and give other guys that are doing something similar? You've mentioned Discord, you've mentioned the other platforms. What kind of advice would you give them, like starting out? Because you've seen, you were one of the founders, technically speaking, in terms of this movement, where you guys were filming traditionally and it took 2-3 days to produce content before it got out. Now all of a sudden it's live. So what are the do's and the don'ts when you are starting a platform?
I don't know, man. I honestly, like, we just did it. We just did it because we wanted to have a laugh, mate. And I think a lot of people think that we do it because, you know, you had this idea that you can make a load of money. That's not why we started it. We started it because we love talking about Liverpool. We were having the conversations in the pub and we just wanted to do something different with it. We're having those conversations anyway. You still have those conversations when you're in the pub. And it's just a passion project. And I think if you keep it like that and you understand that, you know, you enjoy doing it and you make sure that you don't do content that you don't enjoy just because of views. Like, we got into a bit of a rut a few years ago where I think we can honestly say we were doing stuff because we did stuff rather than we were doing stuff because we enjoy doing it. Do you know what I mean? So
is that one of those Aaron McQuinn skits that you guys had like in 2010 when you started out?
Well, we used to love that stuff, you know what I mean? And but as long as you're doing stuff that you enjoy, and like we culled a bit of content a few years back because we realised that we were doing it because it was popular, and it's like we don't enjoy it ourselves, so why are we doing it? Like, that's what it's got to be. If you're going to put as many hours into this stuff as you want, and as we all do, then you've got to enjoy it, man. And so that's a big part and parcel of it. I think keep going as well. And if you're enjoying it, it doesn't matter what views and numbers you get. Like, it's just about whether you're enjoying it, isn't it? And if other people are enjoying it, that's cool. So we had a thing where when we started the website, we put loads and loads of content behind the paywall. And it used to really depress Paul because, you know, we'd have like 100 people. We'd have like 100 people watching a show that it took him 3 days to edit. And as a creator, that's really hard to take. Because you think, well, I can put it out on YouTube and 5,000 people might watch it. And that's a much better situation to be in as a creator. So I just think, like, we just went into it, man. And we just made stuff up as we went along, to be quite honest with you. But I think for me, it's massively important, the community element of it. Like, that, I enjoy that side of it just as much as I do making the videos. And it's hard when you get big to be able to take the time to look through the comments and stuff like that, which is why the live comments really works for us, because we're there, you know, we're interacting then and there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you're not interacting with people, you're just TV, and that's not what we are.
Yeah,
we are, like, I always say this: TV is broadcast. You sit down and you watch it, and that's it. You consume it. That's all you can do. We've got an opportunity to speak to our audience while we're live. Something TV can't really do. They might do it. They might bring a tweet in after it's been verified by 6 people to make sure they're okay to answer that question. Yeah. We'll just talk to the people who are with us right then and there, and that's what separates us. And that might take the show in a completely different direction, but it's so cool because of it. That's the difference. That's the difference.
And talking about taking a show in a different direction, I think someone's tweeted or put up a comment here, Chris, saying he heard you once wore an Everton shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found the shirt. I found the shirt on Google even when I searched for it.
Yeah. It was on my Facebook originally where it started from. So I lost a bet with my brother going into, I think it was like a 2006 derby. It was the what's his name? Andy Johnson, was it? It was the one where he won, and the winner scored those goals, and the winner of the bet, the other person had to wear the shirt the next derby. So it was like 3 months later when Liverpool then had to play Everton again, and I had to wear the Everton shirt for the entirety of that derby. That photo was taken outside Paul's house. Like, you know, he was the one who took the photo. I refused to go to the pub in it, so we watched the game, just me and him and his dad, in the house, because I didn't want to go to the pub in an Everton shirt. And that was the photo, but he had to send me brother proof. And so it's on my Facebook. It's always been on my Facebook. Ped from Toffee TV. Steve, my brother, sent it to Ped from Toffee TV, and Ped put it out on Twitter, and then it goes mad, and then everyone thinks I'm an Everton fan. It's like, okay, you think what you want. It's not going to piss me off, because I know I wasn't. I told you the story. I told you when I was 2 and tried to become an Everton fan, and my dad had none of it. Like, and people think it gets on my nerves. I'm like, it's just a bit annoying that some people think I am when I wasn't. It's not like I do about it.
But that's a valid sort of thing to bring up, because again, someone here has asked, like, how do you deal with the criticism from other fans? And to that point where you saying, you come out and you're authentic and you're real, and that's the sort of the thing that separates what you do from what broadcasters do. And when you are so vulnerable and you're putting yourself up, people then connect with you, but at the same time, you open yourself up for the other end of things. And how has it been dealing with all of that?
That's the hardest part of it, because there's no training for it. Like, all of a sudden, you're making content that people like, and then I think we got to a point where we were starting to be seen by people who weren't interested in that content, and I don't know what size it was. Maybe it was 100,000 subscribers. I don't know, whatever. But all of a sudden, people who don't like us were seeing it in their Twitter feeds and in their Facebook, because other people were liking and sharing it. And it got to that point, and then you start getting loads of abuse off people, and it can sideswipe you, to be honest with you. Like, I've got 2 young kids, and I'll be checking my phone or something late at night or over dinner time or whatever, and all of a sudden just someone calls you something terrible out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden I'm in a bad mood, and like, my kids are missing out on me spending time with them and stuff like that. And that's the thing that people don't get. That, like, and then it was only a couple of years ago I started to deal with it a bit better. Like, I remember a mate of mine just said to me, like, are they in your circle of trust? No. Then what are you listening to them for? Like, I mean, it's some fella who's got a picture of somebody, a footballer, in his bio. Does it matter what they think about you? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. And then once you realise that, and there's other things you can do. The block button's really good. The mute button's really good. I've gone on private. I've gone on private on Twitter actually a few weeks ago.
How come? Because I went on your Twitter bio and Twitter page, and that's what's protected.
Because he's protecting himself from Man United fans like you, bro.
No.
Yeah, it's a season.
Honestly, I don't need it. I don't need any abuse in my life. Yeah. Like, there's just, you can't, nothing good comes from people being able to abuse you online for something that you can't control. Like, you know what I mean? And so after a while, I got to a point where I was like, I'll go on private for a bit and see what it's like. I'll tell you what, I've enjoyed Twitter a lot more since, because now I'm just basically getting a feed. And if someone gives us abuse, it means it's one of my followers. I kind of block them, and that's that. You know what I mean? And that's fine. Like, I to be honest with you, it was that, or I went on a private Twitter on my own and didn't use mine. And I found this worked, and I've started to really enjoy Twitter again, because it does knock you for six, mate. And I tell you what, if I was like a 17-year-old me doing this now, there's no way I'd have been able to deal with it. Yeah. And I can't believe that, like, Twitter and these platforms still doesn't make you verify who you are. Like, it's madness. And I like, we're tiny, and you see the abuse that these footballers get. Like, you just have to look at, like, Gini Wijnaldum's post after the weekend. Woomph. No wonder. Like, no wonder they don't look at their own Twitter accounts and stuff. True. It's horrendous. Like, my mum and dad used to say to me, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say it. Well, there's a lot of people around the world who need to listen to that advice, because it's just horrendous, some of the stuff that's said nowadays on all these platforms. It's embarrassing, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But that's I suppose the serious side of the social network and everything else and how we connected. But Chris, in terms of the Redmen TV, what has been the craziest moment you've ever experienced, and what has been like the happiest moment, those two moments, in terms of being like, I'm a fan, this has happened, Redmen TV. I know I've seen a couple of things with you and Jamie Carragher, and you do all sorts of crazy things, but like, what is the craziest moment, and then your happiest moment?
Happiest moment's winning the league title by a mile, but also interviewing Jurgen Klopp. I mean, sitting down in a hotel in Boston in America and interviewing the Liverpool manager, it was just an absolute dream come true. I got 25 minutes of time with him, just a one-on-one interview. He was great as he is in all the things that you see him do. It was amazing. And I can't, you know, the thing is, there's so many things that we've done over the years that you look back on. Like, I've interviewed childhood hero, Robbie Fowler, Jamie Carragher. I've done podcasts with Kenny Dalglish, and it's just, you don't stop and sort of smell the roses often enough. And it comes to the end of the season, you go, look at what we did there, and you're like, oh my God, that was just incredible. But by a mile, interviewing Jurgen Klopp.
Proper.
Yeah,
that's
can you imagine? Before we introduce the other guys, Chris, I want to say, I saw you had another show where you spoke about going to Kiev for the Champions League final. Mm-hmm. And I liked what you said in terms of fans feeling entitled. And for me personally, I can resonate because I was at that same final, but I flew all the way to Kiev, 3 flights, and I didn't get any tickets. I didn't have any tickets, and I managed to get a ticket outside the stadium a couple of hours before. And I landed up sitting with the Real Madrid fans, and I had this old lady like wave a flag in my face when Bale did the bicycle. And from your perspective, in terms of fans giving, it's one of those things where you say what you think and you feel, and one of those fans that I can get behind when you go into the stadium and you're singing all the time. What message would you have for like all these satellite fans who tend to say they are fans, but they actually switch it off as soon as their team starts losing?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose, there is a difference between being a fan and a supporter in my eyes, and I think a lot of Liverpool fans are Liverpool supporters, and they're there through thick and thin, and they understand the words of the song and everything else through the wind and the rain and all that type of stuff. And that's kind of it, isn't it? When you're a supporter, you've got one job. It's to support your team, and you might disagree with things. And, in the build up to games, you might disagree, and you might, any fan can appreciate this. You're going to disagree with the manager and who he puts out occasionally, and why this player's played and why that one's not playing and all that type of stuff. But it doesn't matter when you get in the ground or when the team's on. You're supporting there. That's what you're there for. You're supposed to build them up and make them think like nobody can beat them and all that type of stuff. And I think, a lot of people aren't lucky enough to go to the game. And I recognise that. And there's a frustration, I think, that's linked to not being able to go to the game and therefore having to almost not prove, but so I think a lot of people think, I've got to prove that this matters to me, so I'm going to get dead angry about it. Like, if I shout loud and I'm angry and you can see that I'm upset, then people will know that I love this football club. And it's just nonsense, to be honest with you. We all deal with situations in different ways. And I'm not saying it's the right or the wrong way to deal with something. I'd never tell someone how they should deal with a situation. But I just know that when I get into those situations, I get really angry, and about 10 minutes later, I'm all right. And then I'm like, all right, my rational head comes on. Like, right, okay, well, what did we do well and all that type of stuff. It's just how I enjoy football. Like, how you enjoy football might be completely different. But I don't think it does the team any favours by going on social media and bleating about it for 7 days straight. Yeah. Tweeting 3 times an hour about some player and all that. You're not really a supporter. You're just a tit with a Twitter account.
No, it's true.
So, one more question.
No. And I think I won't say a question, but just to echo your sentiments, because that's true. Like you can be frustrated at something in that moment, which is okay, because we obviously watching the game. But thereafter, you need to support the team and build them up, and don't bring them down, because at the end of the day, these are the people that will lead your team to a title or lead your team to victory at the end of the day. If you bring them down, you're not helping them at all, especially if you're in the stadium, you're not supporting. And also obviously on social media as well, you need to have a positive environment around your club, and it does suck. There's so many people on social media that just say nonsense about people and the club, and those are not really supporters. They're just people who just watch for the sake of watching.
Yeah, and let's see if the guys I'm going to bring on now, if they just watch for the sake of watching, or if they're fans or they're supporters. Let's see. We've got
the guy who's a Newcastle supporter is definitely through and through. I met his dog. His dog's name is Jordy, so he's definitely a supporter.
Yeah, so
I've been through some tough times, Chris. I've been through some tough times, and I'm going through one of those at the minute. So I might not be on the show next season if we get relegated. So hold thumbs for me, mate. Hold thumbs.
How long have you been supporting Newcastle? Or when did you start following Newcastle?
I didn't really have a choice. My old man was. We were watching a FA Cup final in '98 against Arsenal. and I got given a jersey, and that was it. I'd previously watched a few games before, but I don't really recall. So yeah, all my life really. My grandfather's from up north, so yeah, there was no choice. There was no choice in the matter, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it any other way, because I think we will get our day, and hopefully I can just see us lift a trophy. That would be great, even if it's a League Cup. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, Chris, I actually think Nick sent a question through, and I didn't ask you this question. He actually asked, who are the best set of fans other than LFC fans? And obviously, he's hoping for a certain outcome with that answer.
It's tough to say, really. I mean, like, it depends where you go for a start. Obviously, if you're in their ground, sometimes that's different to how their away fans are, for example. So I know Leicester's a really tough place to go to, because they give them stupid clackers, and I tell you what, they make a hell of a noise with them, like, and they just give them stuff to make a noise with. Like, Watford's a really tough place to go, because they've got some mascot with a drum, and he stands by the away end, and you're trying to sing your song, but he does a different beat, and you can't sing your own song. So there's loads of different ways of doing it. Like, but the Geordies, I think, are the most like Liverpool fans, because it's like a similar sort of philosophy in the city and all that type. And I really like the Geordie fans, and I think they deserve better than what they've got, to be honest with you, because they're a one club city as well, and you know, it's they are really good fans, but there's good fans in all the clubs. You know, you look at teams like Manchester City's away fans come to Anfield, they can step up. My fans at Anfield, they step up big time. So yeah, they're all decent, but they're nowhere near as good as Liverpool, really. Like, you know.
Tell me, Chris, in your opinion, you know, I've watched a few games myself, and I prefer going with the away fans to the away section in the obviously on the away days, and I tend to find that there's sections in our home, especially at Newcastle, where the fans they're not supporters, they're just fans, like you had mentioned previously. Do you find that in Liverpool at Anfield? Are there sections in the stadium where you've maybe got your tourists watching the game, and then you've got maybe the cop end, which is just, you know, your diehard fans that are there through thick and thin?
I think you get that. Go on, sorry, Nick.
Yeah. So no, I just wanted to know your opinion, because I mean, for me, my best atmospheres is when I go away. You know, we could be losing. I think we went away to Blackburn. We lost 1-0 in the championship. We took 7,000 fans there, and it was probably my best away day, even though we lost, because it was just such. I mean, you had 7,000 Geordies singing from minute 1 to 90. But you were at home the week before against Sheffield Wednesday, and it was just it was a little bit boring in some aspects, if you want to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, you get that. I think you get that at every stadium in England, to be honest with you. And it's too easy to say tourists. I don't think it's that. I don't think that's the case, because you know, I've been going the game a long time, like, and I know just as many Scousers who don't sing as people who come from out of town. I know loads of people who come from out of town who know every word to every song and sing the heart out. Yeah. And I know, especially, you know, I've been over and seen fans from all around the world, and I've been over to America, and, you know, they know every word to every song. They sing it slightly differently. Like, there's a beat that's slightly different sometimes, because you're hearing it through the television. You're not hearing it in quite the same way. So it sounds different to me, and the accent as well. But, like, and I've seen them come over, and I've gone to a game in England with fans that I've met over abroad and stuff like that, and they're just as passionate as anyone there. It just depends who you are, what's going on in your life. There's loads of people I know that, like, there's a fella that used to leave. In fact, I was talking to Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV, right? And
hey, Wonga, that's your man, that Wonga,
right? I was talking to him, right, a few years ago, and he said there's a guy that leaves on like 60 minutes or something like that every game, like near me. I'm like, what's that about? It turns out he lived about 5 hours away from the ground, and he had to leave to get his train home and stuff like that. Like, so you don't actually know, like, what people's life situation. That guy travelled 5 hours there to travel 5 hours back to watch 60 minutes of a game. And
Jeez,
people probably, he walks up the ground and people think, oh, what a loser. He's leaving early. He's like, he's put 10 hours traveling just to see 60 minutes of a football match.
But also to leave.
See the end of. You know what I
And
mean?
also to leave, but to leave after 60 minutes. But to leave after 60 minutes must be gut-wrenching as well to know, shit, I'm going to have to leave after traveling 10 hours. It's insane.
Damn.
So you just don't know what people's situations are, do you? That's kind of it. Like, and I love the away games. The away games are amazing. And one of my favourite away games is Liverpool against Derby in like the Capital One Cup or something, because the songs that we sang were completely different to what we normally sing on an away day, because there was a bit of an older crowd there. Maybe it was slightly more scouse, and you can notice that when you go on the away days, and you never stop singing on an away day, and I absolutely love them. And you get those games where it's like a 12:30 kickoff against Brighton at home, and you can just feel that everyone's a little bit hungover or they're not really up for it. But you get that at every stadium in the UK.
Sure.
All right.
You get it a lot at Arsenal, though, Wonga. You get it a lot at Arsenal.
So with the pandemic, and obviously fans not being allowed to come into the stadiums, I think Claudio always complains. He's the biggest advocate in saying that Liverpool wouldn't be in the situation if the fans were back in the stadium. Liverpool would be doing a little bit better. So what do you think the impact has had on certain clubs? I know Man City is thriving because Man City never have fans in the stadium, so they obviously
West Ham. But West Ham's another example. I know you're making
West Ham as well.
Their fans, they look great.
West Ham as well.
Yeah?
West Ham and Man City. Yeah, those are two clubs who never have capacity to the rafters.
I think it does make a difference. I think it probably affects some clubs more than others. I think even when like Gary Neville came out this week and said on his podcast on Sky Sports that he thinks it's affected Liverpool a lot not having the fans there, and that's a Manchester United legend coming out and saying it. So it's not just Liverpool fans, I think, that are saying this type of thing. And I don't think we'd have maybe. It's tough to say because the injuries are obviously a massive part. It's everything all together, and I think everybody's going through the same boat almost, aren't they, with the fans? But not everybody's going through the injuries, and maybe there's a hangover. Who knows? But it just seems to be there's a lot of stuff at the moment for Liverpool to deal with, I suppose.
Yeah, and before we go to the results, Matt, Wonga, do you guys want to ask one more question?
Actually, I was wondering because it's supporting Liverpool. It's been like, and Spurs, we'd love to be on the kind of roller coaster you on. Have be like, we won the league and now we're having a shit season. That must be so horrible. I feel so bad for you. But then, it has been a massive roller coaster. And sort of the last couple of years, and the really shit thing is like you've gone through this massive high at the same time as not being able to be at the stadium. So it's almost like you've been robbed of that experience. And I suppose, and you're in the city, so I wanted to find out how are you guys kind of. Have you felt that the city itself has kind of been doing something different to kind of let that feel real? Because I know Liverpool fans who are removed might not feel the same, but you guys must feel a bit robbed to a certain extent of what I think that should have felt like.
Yeah, I think so. We do because you're supposed to get a big parade, and it was supposed to be the parade of all parades after 30 years of not winning a league title.
Yeah,
and we might never get to do that. Could you see Liverpool putting a parade on now, genuinely, a year after when Manchester City are about to be crowned champions? We were talking about this on our podcast before, actually, and I said just do it anyway because it'll piss everyone off. But equally, it would be a little bit sad, wouldn't it, parading a trophy that's not actually... You might not even be able to parade the trophy. You might have to ask Man City if you could borrow the trophy for a start. But that's it. I think we all... And I think a lot of fans from all around the world would have made a pilgrimage as well. So I think there's fans from outside of the city that would have gone, you know what, I'm definitely going to be there for that weekend and stuff like that. So they probably all feel robbed. But for us, it's gut-wrenching. It really is, because I want to show my appreciation for what that team did. And I kind of came to this conclusion before, is that I'd still actually genuinely be okay with it because I haven't shown my appreciation for what they did for us, and no amount of time is going to stop that. I still haven't shown them how much it means to me in a big crowd. It is a little bit, don't get me wrong, I understand that's a little bit weird, like parading something a year after, but so what? Like, the players deserve that parade.
Hey Chris, what about a player like Genie? Sorry, Matt. What about like Genie? It looks like he's on his way out. He's not going to get that. So after all that time at the club and all that hard work, he's probably going to leave end of the season, and that moment's gone for him.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I think they deserve it more than the fans do, and that's kind of where I came to. It's like it's not for us; it's for them, and if you can show that appreciation after an amount of time, then brilliant. Let's do it. But I can't imagine that they would, to be honest, because it'd just be a bit weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Sorry, finish
up.
Like
you said, maybe the bus could just carry on. Once the parade is finished, it can just drive straight to Manchester and drop off the trophy.
Yeah. Right. Well, you have anything you want to say?
I don't have any question. I mean, I was just laughing at the fact that you said that Arsenal was one of those stadiums where you get those fans that are just there. At sometimes, I won't lie to you, I feel like I can understand why people would leave. And I used to actually be that guy watching people. When I think many times Arsenal, especially if they're losing, you see guys get up. Masses leave the stadium early. And I'll be like, yes, what kind of supporters are these? Me sitting on my couch with a nice burger or something in my hand. I never actually thought I considered that.
I think stadium design makes a big difference, though, because you talk about West Ham as well, and West Ham's field is so far from the stands because it's the Olympic Stadium and that, and I think and Arsenal also feels like, I don't actually know whether it is or not, but it feels like it's distant. And I know what was really nice about the old White Hart Lane, which I think they've tried to replicate with the new stadium, is that the stands were very close to the grass. You really felt like you were on top of the field. And you get that feel in certain stadiums. And the King Power, Leicester's another one where you really feel like you could lean over and pat them on the back. And I think that makes a big difference in terms of atmosphere, because then it doesn't take too many of you to make a noise for that to resonate and for the players to feel it. And I think when you get these stadiums that are designed either for other sports or just not designed with the right thoughts in mind, the noise goes up instead of towards the players. And I'm sure that affects it as well. And they probably also sit there like, come on, I'm doing this all day. Just give me a bit of a shout, And I think that definitely, I think the stadium design, they really need to design it, Claudio, about design thinking. You should design it from the perspective of the players themselves. That's who you're building it for ultimately. And I think that would make a big difference.
The big thing at Liverpool is you're not sat with your mates anymore. And so, like, I go to the game and I'm generally on my own. Paul goes to the game, he's on his own. And pretty much most people I know go to the game. They might go with somebody, but they're not sat by them anymore. And that's a problem when you're selling out your stadium and when it's so difficult to buy season tickets. Like, wouldn't it be great if the clubs just went, why don't we say, let's see if we can move all their mates next to each other? Because I tell you what, I'm going to be 10 times louder if I'm sat with 8 of my mates who I feel comfortable with singing, rather than sat next to 2 old fellas that don't sing, and then I'm in the middle of them screaming my head off. Like, that's a big thing, and I'm sure it's the same across all stadiums in England. Like, get more people with their mates into the ground.
Chris, I don't know if you took notice, a couple of years ago, Mike Ashley sort of broke up the singing section in St. James's Park. I think it was level 7, because he was getting a lot of abuse. So he moved all those season tickets to one section, similar to the club, to the COP, and moved them all around the stadium. So there's no real singing section in St. James's Park anymore. That's why the home games are pretty dire, to be very honest with you. So I agree with you. I mean, if you can get everyone together in one section and families in their own section, I think it would make a huge difference. Huge difference.
I think Spurs have done something like that, haven't they, Matty?
They've tried
the 18 something movement or something like that. Is it some fans?
Yeah, and they redid the booking system as well. So when you buy tickets, because it used to have this really shitty one where I remember I used it a couple of years ago to buy tickets for me and my dad and my brothers, and then it kind of randomized. So we ended up with 4 seats that were in roughly the same stand, but we were all apart from each other. Then when we got there on the day, we kind of asked around and people were moving. So we kind of got to sit to each other, my baby brother, but it's his loss. And then the done with the booking system is also I think they've tried to make it a bit better. So when you do a booking for multiple seats, it helps you automate to find them closer together. And they did the similar thing with the season tickets where you could buy and kind of link it together. I think it helped because we're moving to the new stadium, so people weren't so kind of married to a particular chair, and that kind of helped it. But it's still not ideal. I think there's still, especially if you're going in for a day trip as well, it's still very difficult. Like I obviously don't have a season ticket. I live in South Africa, so when I do go through, I'm on a day ticket, and then it can be really difficult to get seats next to each other, and that can be, it does detract from the experience a little bit, because you are less likely to be singing and screaming and shouting with strangers. So yeah, it is something that they could probably. I know that one of the interesting things I saw was there's always been, last couple of years, there's always been a lot of talk about bringing back the standing stands and doing away with the chairs. And I know they were got rid of for safety reasons, but they could, you've seen examples. I know Germany, they still have them in some stadiums and stuff where they've done it quite safely. I think that could be quite interesting. I think that could be, because that, there's obviously they're not going to hold you to a seat if you're in a standing stadium. So that would kind of eliminate that risk of you not being near your mates, because you could all just go stand near the same piece of the terrace.
You would. They're going to ticket them in exactly the same way as safe standing. So you would get your space, it is, and there is still a seat behind you. But it's not come to fruition as yet. But yeah, you will. Celtic have got it, and they're obviously the ones in the UK who've done it. And yeah, they sell them just like a ticket. And the marshal, there's more marshals, more policemen involved, more stewards to make sure that people stand in the correct spaces and stuff like. But I know that they do sort of. I think they did say at Celtic. We went to listen to a fella talk about it in one of the Liverpool supporters clubs a couple of years ago, because obviously Liverpool, I think, should be at the forefront of any safe standing talk going on. Yeah. With obviously the history of it. And yeah, it was really interesting hearing them talk about it and tell us exactly how it's marshalled and how they deal with it. But yeah, I think when Celtic introduced it, they very much said, like, this is going to be a loud sort of singing section. So some people went, okay, well, it's not really for me, and I'll move and someone else can go in there. And they really made sure that it was people who wanted to sing all game, which is good. And I think a lot of clubs should be able to do that. And I don't know what the movement's called, but Flav from the Fighting Cock, I think, is heavily involved in whatever it is, the 18-something movements for Spurs. He tried to get a lot of season ticket holders together and stuff like that and make a sort of singing section Spurs. And I think a lot of clubs should do it, to be honest with you, because it'll make the atmospheres much better.
Yeah.
This is slightly off topic, but you mentioned stewards and selling tickets. And one thing, Chris, for the Madrid Champions League final, when I spoke to a couple of the guys and we were in that center where all the chaos happened for the singing and stuff like that. Like I said, I went to Kiev without tickets. I did the same thing for Madrid. Wasn't as lucky because the prices for that sort of game was ridiculous. But a lot of guys, the one story I heard, there was a guy who got into the stadium at Madrid and he dressed up as a steward, and he snuck through the gate, a Liverpool fan, and he just got away with it and ended up watching. But also at the same time, I ended up seeing like policemen smacking a lot of fans like on horses and things like that. But I mean, that story for me was mind blowing. Like came all the way from South Africa trying to watch this game without tickets. Then I heard the amount of guys coming from Liverpool. There was a bus. I think it was a bus of like 20 guys that I know. I think on that bus, there were only 8 that had tickets, and half of them were affiliated like with the club in some shape or form, and they still couldn't get tickets. So for me, it was nuts. So just to be in the bar and party. But I don't know. Do you know 1 or 2 crazy stories like that from your own capacity?
No, not really, to be honest with you. I think I know my brother snuck into an FA Cup final when Everton were there, because they had in Wembley basically. They used to have one steward for like 10 turnstiles who just jumped the turnstile and the fella came flying at him, and he just palmed him like 20 quid or something like that, and he let him in or something. So I know a few like that, and I think there's a great one. There's a play called Beating Berlusconi, from when we played AC Milan, and Berlusconi obviously is the owner of AC Milan, and this fella snuck into like some area of the Istanbul stadium, the Ataturk, where you weren't allowed to go, and he ended up watching the game next to Berlusconi in his box. And there's a whole big play been made out of that, like, which was pretty insane, to be honest with you. But I don't really know anyone, to be honest. I think a lot of people, aren't interested in telling them. If they've got in a dodgy way, you don't want to be outed, do you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
It's crazy.
And
crazy.
So we're finally getting to the show now. We're talking about the results of the weekend, and the first game we're going to talk about is the Southampton-Chelsea result. But they drew 1-1, guys. Overall, Chelsea dropped more points. I know we're going to discuss Liverpool game, but Chelsea dropped more points. It's this crucial fight for top 4, guys. like who wants to share some thoughts about this?
I think you can give us a start off, because your Loney scored the first goal, a well taken, composed finish. I saw Mark Goldbridge going crazy about the goal actually on Twitter, saying, Minamino, like he was so happy. But I was also happy as a Man United fan that obviously that Southampton managed to get a draw, and I predicted a draw, that they were going to get a draw against Chelsea. I just had a feeling that Hasenhüttl was going to do the things.
My favorite one from the weekend was the tweet that said that Minamino's figured out how to get back in the Liverpool team, and that's play well for Southampton.
Yes. That's correct. You know.
Yeah, man. The Minamino thing's an interesting one. I mean, you're looking at him. He had an impact in Newcastle. He's had another impact here for Chelsea. And you're looking at the way in which Liverpool are playing at the moment. And I'm going, jeepers, we're sticking to the same sort of things. And we needed another option. Maybe a player like that needed a little bit more time. I can understand why he wasn't getting a little bit more time. I don't know, Chris, you can share your thoughts there with regards to Minamino not getting game time this season.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think, Klopp didn't fancy him, clearly. I mean, getting rid of a player when you're in a mad injury crisis seems to be insane. When, Diogo Jota's out for us and Divock Origi hasn't scored off the bench since the Champions League final. Yeah, seriously. He's not come off the bench and scored a goal since the Champions League final. Like, that's a long time ago if he's just an impact sub. And yet he wasn't in the running for it. And clearly, there must have been something. There must have been some issues there. There was rumours of him being a bad trainer or whatever. He didn't get the rub of the green. He just didn't get any opportunities. Comes in against Crystal Palace, plays really, really well. We score 7 goals. Don't see him for weeks. Just crazy. And he's clearly a good, talented footballer. But something for whatever reason didn't click at Liverpool right then. Mad.
What's your opinion about Mason Mount? Because a couple of weeks, we've got a Chelsea fan. He's not here today because he couldn't make it. Yeah. But Mason Mount, he gets the penalty, he scores the penalty. And a lot of guys are saying he was only playing because he was Frank Lampard's sort of golden child or son. I think Celo and a couple of other guys here were saying it's Frankie Jr.
It used to be the joke that he's Frank Lampard's son. But I think he's proven to us that he wasn't Frank Lampard's son. He was actually the best player in the team. He's been the best player this season. I mean, I think he's now a definite England starter from the performances that he's given. He's such a fighter, man. And it was just a joke, at the beginning of the season, because I think he was overused sometimes. Where he did maybe deserve a rest, but yeah, he's been their best player. Without him, I think Chelsea would be closer to Arsenal.
Do you think he deserves a spot in the English squad, Chris?
Yeah.
I don't care about England, mate. I have no interest in how England do or what England play. I don't even know if he had caps for. I genuinely don't care.
He does. He starts for England. Yeah, he does start for England.
Does he?
Yeah.
But Chris, you started Redmen TV with content. But wasn't the Redmen TV started off with content about the 2010 World Cup? And I saw one clip where you guys spoke about Aaron McQuena. I don't even know where that guy is right now. Yeah.
Who? He's an assistant coach at Cape Town City.
Okay. Say his name again.
Aaron McQuena, the South African captain.
The one who used to play for Blackburn.
Oh yeah, he did for a while.
It was a long time ago. I don't know. We did start doing that stuff. We started with a balloon keepy up World Cup, actually. And we were doing keepy ups with a balloon, Claudio. That's what we were doing. And I think we were more interested in doing keepy ups with a balloon than we were with the international team. Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
All right. Well,
a lot of Liverpool fans feel that way, though. A lot of Liverpool fans that I know don't really follow England. It's even Carragher said that it always hurt more to lose with Liverpool than it did with England.
Yeah, it's just not something we've ever been interested in.
Yeah, it's not a lot of stuff.
We got a saying, Scouse, not English. And like,
it's like Catalonia in Spain, yeah?
Yeah, it comes down to it, right? We've been shafted by the government in Liverpool for a long time, since the 80s. And we're a port city and we face outwards. And we're very welcoming, I think, to people from all around the world. And we want them coming to visit our city. We've never really looked over our shoulder at what's going on behind us because we don't really feel a part of it. All they do is they tell us we're bloody this and with that and with thieves and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's like, well, why don't you support the English national team? Because you're all pricks and we don't like any of you. Thank you very much. You know what I mean? And all you do is call us names and have done forever. You literally cut funding to the city. They try to manage decline the city, is what Margaret Thatcher tried to do. And, you know, there's leaked documents and all kinds of stuff about underfunding us to the point where we won't be able to exist anymore. And they want us to be a thing and then forget it all because, you know, little old England, they're going to go and try and win the World Cup. It's like, no one cares. We care about Liverpool. We love Liverpool. We couldn't care less about Tottenham. And I hate supporting Wayne Rooney. And I hate supporting Harry Kane. And I hate supporting, like, you know what I mean? I hate them all because I love Liverpool so much. Why are you going to ask me to support them? I hate them.
Right. I think that's a good segue to just let's just rip off the band-aid. Let's talk about this one, Chris. Liverpool.
Right, it's got to go, lads.
The tough game.
Yeah, where do we start? I think before Chris and I share our opinions, does anyone want to take this? Does anyone want to start here? Because this is a sore point.
Claudio, I wanted to say. I mean, I think Claudio was. What did Claudio say about Pickford before the game? He said Pickford. You saw Pickford coming, making errors. Liverpool stealing the game and making Pickford obviously pay for those errors, and Pickford was on point that game.
His best game this season.
Yeah, he saved
probably
everything. Couldn't unbeatable. And then I think the rest just happened. Defense wasn't there. You could see Liverpool's just literally hollow. I don't know how to explain that, but that's what they look. It's just.
I tell you what,
Liverpool
reminded me of Spurs. The way Spurs have been the last few weeks, where you just see like we're not going to do anything. You just feel limp, you know. Like it was a game that for whatever reason, Liverpool didn't look like winning from the first minute. Everton came there with they were on the front foot. They were really pushing. Liverpool weren't themselves. I think losing Henderson was a huge loss. I think, and you could see it on his face as soon as he got that injury. You could see he felt it go, and I think that was the turning point in the game. Whether or not you might have won it, I don't know. That's maybe up for debate, but. It didn't feel like Liverpool of last season, that's for sure. You guys haven't felt that way for a while, but it didn't feel like a team that was set up to win on the day either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Henderson sort of injury was unfortunate. I don't think it would have changed anything. I think also as Pickford was pulling off the saves, I was like, I've gone and jinxed this whole scenario, haven't I? I put my foot in it saying Pickford's going to fumble, and he just decided with no fans there, he decided this was comfortable for him and he wanted to perform, and he did. Fair play to him. But overall, I think Ozan Kabak, I think his positioning, you can see the youngster's being thrown into this sort of situation. He needs to sort of acclimatize still, and he just gets caught out. I think that first goal is absolute shambles, by the way. I know there was a second ball, third ball, but his positioning, absolutely, he's more fixated on the man than he is fixated on actually the ball. He's not reading the game at all. He gets played, he gets spun in. So, but not too much criticism in his way because he's young and he's new, and we are asking him to do a sort of big job here. But you guys said, I mean, they were flat. Zombies, I read someone say they were looking like zombies. I mean, the worrying thing is the last couple of games, this has been the pattern. So you knew off the bat, this was kind of what we were going to experience. And it was very different to the Champions League performance. It felt like they were energized there and you thought maybe they're going to carry that momentum into the game, and they just didn't. And I think Ancelotti obviously was the key difference for Everton in this sort of scenario. He gave them that belief where they were like, if there is, like Chris said at the start of the show, if there's ever a time to beat beat Liverpool at Anfield, this is the time. Chris, you can take over here, Chris.
Oh, I really don't want to talk about it anymore, mate.
You've spoken about it enough.
Honestly, mate. It's painful to do, isn't it? But Everton deserved to win the game. Like, they were the better side, and we started terribly. Absolutely a joke, but you got to give credit to James Rodriguez. That touch before the assist is top draw. Like, he pulls that down, and because of the way that he pulls it down, no one can get near him in time. And, there's question marks, of course, over what the other players are doing, Thiago's header and Kabak's header and all that type of stuff. But I think Matty's right. I think, Liverpool didn't look like we were going to score in a month of Sundays there. It just never looked like. And I think Matty's right again. Our mentality is wrong at the moment. We can see the goal, and that's that. And we don't feel like we're going to be able to get back into it. And that's the big difference between this season and last season. And there's obviously extenuating circumstances. We've got a laundry list of injuries there. But, equally, I do think that Liverpool needs to change the style of football slightly, because we're trying to play exactly the same way with inferior players. And I think to play the style of football that Liverpool play, you need top draw world-class footballers at the heart of your defence to play that higher line. And we don't have them. And it's mad to me that we're continuing to try the same thing. It's just crazy. It's just something's got to change. Something has to change.
So would you say, I wouldn't criticism, but sort of the opinion going to Klopp, right? So obviously, you don't have the centre backs to play the way in which you're playing, and you're right, where they haven't adapted. We're not sitting deep, but we're still trying to play the same way. So should there be some criticism targeting sort of Klopp in this sort of scenario?
I don't know, because it's easy to sit here and say, something's got to change, but what if he changed it and it got worse? Like, we're in a mad season where there's not much time for training. And you're asking him to change. I saw Gary Neville mention he wants to see Liverpool play 3 at the back. Why? We've got no centre backs. We're going to throw an extra one on the field for, man. We've got none. You want 3 at the back? You're mad. Are you insane?
Maybe he meant 1 centre back and two fullbacks. Just go with one in the middle.
Guys, this is the same guy he took a job in Spain. He didn't know how to speak Spanish, brought his brother along and tried probably doing the same thing, made the striker play centre back. Who knows? This is the same guy. So I think you got to take Gary Neville's comments with a pinch of salt, man. Nick, as a coach, what would you say? Oh, by the way, Chris, Nick actually coaches here at Tux for the University of Pretoria. He's the first team coach. He's actually just been given the job. So that's why I'm targeting the sort of coaching to coach Nick. So let's hear, Coach. What would you say?
I don't know. I think what all the lads have said is very true. I think I want to comment on Kabak. I don't know if he's the one. Just the speed. He's got no speed. He just looks so lethargic and slow. And he is a young lad. He has been thrown into a deep end there. I don't know what's happened with the boy from the Championship, if he's still injured. But who is he going to use now? I think that would be my first concern. And I spoke about this after the Villa defeat. Exactly what Chris is saying. That high line is suicidal, in my opinion. It's suicidal. I don't know why they just don't drop off. I think they've got enough good ball players to drop off, win the ball, and play it into the midfield and try and break teams down that way. I mean, there's enough on the... Listen, the quality obviously isn't as good as what you guys generally have in terms of your Virgils at the back and sort of the other players that are missing. But I mean, there's enough there to go and beat an Everton team. Newcastle United beat Everton. I mean, we're about to get relegated. No, I'm not even joking. I mean, we had a midfield of John Joe Shelby playing there, and we had Kieran Clark at the back and Jamal Lascelles. You can't tell me that they weren't there for the taking. They were obviously just up for it for the day. Derby game, let's go and try and get a victory. But they literally sleepwalking to hopefully get over a line to 4th place. And I agree. I think there's fundamental issues there with the style in which he wants to play with the specific personnel that he has. And I fully agree. I think something needs to change. And maybe it's small changes in just the approach. Defensively, you don't need to be this freestyle or free-flowing style of play going forward, counter-attacking, hurting teams for 90 minutes. Maybe it needs to be a bit more pragmatic. I know Klopp's not really like that, but, you're right, Chris. Maybe it won't change. Maybe it will get worse. But, I mean, if you stay a bit more pragmatic, you might not concede as many goals. You have the quality up top to score. That is clear.
But they haven't scored. They haven't scored. They've only.
We haven't scored. Yeah, but still, this is the thing. We're not scoring because there's a low block there. We're not actually to this point. If we're pragmatic enough, and we say, cool, we don't have the defenders to play this high line, and we do sit deeper, you're actually playing into the hands of your attackers. Because then you can put more emphasis on your Salahs and your Manes. You can break high up the pitch and maybe capitalize on the space and behind. Right now, we have no space. And these players that are normally effective in those sort of areas aren't getting that opportunity. So maybe there is something behind all of that. And maybe something, or who knows, like right now as a fan, and Chris can obviously say yes or no in this sort of scenario, but as a fan right now, watching them at Anfield is the worst thing in my opinion. I dread those games right now, and it's only been 4 or 5 games, but it's because as soon as, like you said, Matt, as the game kicked off, Kabak misses that header, and you're just going, and that's within the first 30 seconds. You're going, oh shit,
What's going on?
where's this going? And you can just kind of feel it, and I can feel it, and I'm living in South Africa. Could you imagine being in Liverpool at the moment? So I think it is a tricky one. Right now, I'm like one of those horses racing with the blinkers on the side. I'm just looking at the Champions League and ignoring everything else, and that's what I'm focused on.
So do you fall asleep when it's home games and you're awake when it's away games?
Jeez, bro. That's an interesting question.
That's where you're winning right now. You know what I mean? That's where you beat West Ham and you beat Tottenham. You know what I mean? So I think obviously you've taken on the mantle of Man United.
Why does that work? But why does that work? It works. We know this. I mean, this is well documented, and Chris is the statistician, and he knows his stats and his numbers. But why that works is obviously those sort of teams are going to come out and they're going to play, and they fancy themselves to try and open Liverpool up. These other teams, unfortunately, we just haven't found a solution. And it's always been Klopp's weakness, actually, when he came in. He tried doing this sort of thing, and the teams that Sam Allardyce has a great record against him. Also, Ancelotti has a great record against Klopp when he was at Napoli, and that's kind of what it reminded me of on the weekend, was he set up to do the same thing, and Klopp hasn't adapted. So fair play. But, I see Chris is being quiet. Let's move on to the next game.
I'm interested. I'm just listening to you guys talk. I was laughing.
Yeah,
you know what I would do, and it sort of references what Nick was talking about there. Like, we're not the counter-pressing side that we were a few years ago under Jurgen Klopp. We are now a possession-based side. And team give us possession, and we're going to take it anyway. Like, I think there's an ego to us sometimes where we give us a ball, and we go, all right, well, we'll just score, and we're not able to do that at the moment. Our shot conversion's down at 9.1%. I think it's the 9th best in the league. Crystal Palace shot conversions is better than Liverpool's right now. Everton top of the table in shot conversion, all this type of stuff. I don't know there's more goes into it, but gives you an idea. We've had 450 something shots and scored 45 goals, or 490 something shots, scored 45 goals. It's not good enough. I would engineer a way where Liverpool can get back to a counter press, and to be quite honest, it'd be quite agricultural. I would hit the ball up long and go and tell my strikers to chase down the second balls and try and engineer a situation that's not coming to us in a normal game state, because we're having 80% of the ball, 70% of the ball all the time. We're not able to use the counter press. We used it really well against Leipzig the other day, because Leipzig came at us, wanted to play the ball. We're really good in those situations. We don't get that in the Premier League anymore, because people know that the best way to get a result against Liverpool is to sit back and make us play through them, because we're struggling to do it right now. So I think you've just got to try something and engineer a situation where you're really good at, and we're really good at counter pressing. So let's engineer a situation where we can counter press a little bit more.
And it's almost as if the players are fatigued as to trying to figure out ways to break them down. They enjoy it. They enjoy it when the guys are coming toe to toe, because then they're like, this is a heavyweight match. We're going to beat you. We're going to knock you up. But when the teams are sitting deep, it's almost like there's no motivation. They're going, this is going to be laborious. This is going to be tedious. Yeah, it's just one of those things that's frustrating to watch. But West Ham Spurs, Matty, your game. I mean, this is an interesting one. It got exciting towards the end, and you could feel somewhat aggrieved for not walking away with a point. But in the end, Mourinho doesn't get the 3 points, and the call to question of whether or not he should still be a manager at Spurs is pretty much ringing louder and louder, game by game.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, this game was a bit different to some of our previous outings or more recent outings, in the sense that the second half team, if you took Spurs from the second half and played them against the Spurs from the first half, they would have absolutely clattered them. You know, they were offensive, they were on the front foot, they were pushing the envelope, they were really asking questions. And the first half, Spurs were just flat. You know, we were obviously the very early goal kind of threw us off our game, and but we didn't come back from that. And that first half was really frustrating. It just felt like we weren't really putting anything together. There was one sort of interesting chance for Kane quite early on after Lamela he was probably the only player in the first half who was trying to make anything happen. And he did that really nice run where he took on like 3 defenders and then put Kane through, and then unfortunately Kane put it wide. And that was really the only interesting bit of football we played in the whole first half. Then in the second half, the early goal again, just, you know, switching off, not being awake from the start. It was really frustrating. But then for the rest of the second half, we were a really good side, and there was some really good chances. Obviously, Lucas got the goal, which was fantastic and gave us a bit of hope. But Bale was, you know, we watched Bale in the Europa League, and he was solid. He was really back to himself. Wonga, top bins. We've been talking about it. But I think, and again, he was a lot more lively than we've seen him. We've talked about him quite a lot on the show, and he hasn't been himself, and it's all been a massive letdown and very sad for us Spurs romantics. But on Sunday, he was again more lively. He was making chances. He hit the crossbar with an absolute peach of a shot, and there was a few instances. Kane also had a couple of other chances. Son got through. There was a couple of instances where we probably could have turned this around, and it was so in a way, this game was slightly better than some of the other losses we've had recently. It was almost like you could see light at the end of the tunnel, which we haven't had for a while. The loss against City, it was very much kind of, we were lucky to come away with just 3 kind of a thing. And this one, it was, fair play to West Ham. They did the job supremely well. They really did perform. They did what they were meant to do. And Moyes made really smart substitutions. When he saw we started to get a bit more in the ascendancy, he brought on some defensive players. He tightened up at the back. We found very little room to operate. Even with that said, we did create a couple of chances, and we probably could have come away with a point. I did feel towards the end like we kind of did deserve that point at the end because we'd really worked for it. But you only get the points you score the goals for, so we got to accept it. But I think on the basis of the second half alone, I'm still saying let's hold on to Mourinho. But I think if we can play more like we did in the second half, over the coming weeks, I think we should see some changes. The problem for me is that I'm worried that Mourinho didn't see the same game I did. And I'm worried that he won't necessarily do that. And that's the fear, is that we'll go to our next game and first half Spurs will be back where they were. And that's when I think the frustration will come, because in the last couple of weeks, we haven't shown any other way we could play. So there's no reason to kind of debate it. But now we showed in the second half, if you play us differently, we perform differently. So if we could just do that again for a few weeks in a run, and I'd love to see Bale get more game time and hopefully start banging them in. And
what about Ali? Because Ali also came on, didn't he?
And he came on, and he was a lot more. And he also had a fantastic game in Europe during the week. And it's so in that sense, it's really nice. Like we all love Ali at Spurs, so that was really good as well. The fact that him and Bale also seemed to click a little bit, that was really nice. There was some nice 1-2, some nice movement between the two of them, kind of playing off each other's shoulders and stuff. And I really like that. I really like the way they kind of that bond. And if we could get that sort of, if you can imagine Kane and Son and Bale and Ali, all the 4, those 2 pairings, kind of the best couples in football, as you say, Claudio. So if we could see them kind of clicking on a regular basis, I think we could start seeing some good results. The fear for me is always with Mourinho is he may well revert to type and force us to play really defensively. And then instead of just going out and winning games, we're going to be trying to claw back from losing positions, because unfortunately we simply don't have the defense to play a Mourinho style game anymore, which is frustrating because we showed at the beginning of the season that we did. Against City and against Arsenal, we were so solid at the back. We were really well drilled, and that seems to have all gone up in smoke. I don't know what it is. Davinson Sanchez, I love the player. I really think he's had some fantastic games for Spurs in the past. But against West Ham, you saw the worst side of him again. His positioning is just poor. He's not quick enough to make up for it when he is putting himself in the wrong positions. Dyer is just, he's a really good defender to have when he's got an organised defence around him. He's good at shouting at people, making them be in the right place and stuff. When people aren't doing that, he's not the kind of guy who's going to be able to fix it for you on his own. And I think he's not Ledley King in that way, and I think
you need a leader. You need a leader at the back.
Yeah, and we are struggling. Fair play to Lloris. He did have a bit of a better game than he's had recently. He was, I think for Lingard's goal, there was nothing he could have done. That thing was just, and that's another thing that's kind of annoying as well, because I'm really disappointed to see us lose. But I was really happy for Lingard because I feel like he's a player who deserved more. I don't feel like United gave him a fair crack of the whip. I think he didn't obviously fit in the system there, and he wasn't getting enough football, and we weren't seeing what he could do. And he's doing really well at West Ham, and he's kind of found his groove. So even when he scored the goal, I was like, that is such a beautiful Lingard goal. I'm so annoyed it happened today, It's one of those games where I was really disappointed with the result, but watching the performance, I was slightly heartened in a way that I haven't been. You guys have heard me the last few weeks, so I think there's something to hold on to. Maybe I'm clutching at straws because I'm a Spurs fan, but that's kind of what we do. This is the job. You signed up for it when you joined the team. So
this is you guys.
This is what we do. Glory in defeat.
Chris, I thought it was Dare to Dream or Dare to Do or something. I prefer this one. I think you've nailed it there.
I'll get it redone. I need to find out what the Latin for it is.
Everything sounds better in Latin, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Chris, overall, do you think Mourinho is the right guy for Spurs? Or do you think he's somewhat lost his specialness about him, the special oneness about him?
I've said for a while, I just don't think I just think the game's slightly moved on, and it's easy to sit here and say that, isn't it? Like, he's one of the best coaches in world football still. He's probably top 10. I just think that the top 2 or 3 are significantly better than him now. And I think we can probably all agree that if he was still the best coach, he wouldn't be at Spurs, and that's no disrespect to Spurs, but he'd still be at Manchester United. You know what I mean? He really would if he'd been over there and he'd been able to do it. So I still think he can win cups. I still think he can win trophies. I just don't think he's going to do it with the consistency that he did a while ago, because how many managers have been doing it for 20 years? And like, there's not many. When you think about football on the whole, like Sir Alex Ferguson's one of those guys. Ancelotti's maybe another one of those guys. But even then, he hasn't really had a big job in a long time, although he's still a really good manager. There's not many that can span 2 decades, 3 decades. And that's what we're asking. That's what we're asking Mourinho to do. Football evolves. Football changes. You have your day in the sun, and then the sun sets. It's just part and parcel of it, isn't it?
Yeah, Matt, you're hoping the sun's still shining a little bit there at Spurs, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, on the one hand, there's like, I've seen a lot of talk about, we should change up, get rid of Mourinho, bring in Nagelsmann. I don't know if Nagelsmann would even come to Spurs at the moment. So it's also that thing of who would we realistically end up getting. I think realistically, Spurs' best bet is to hold on to Mourinho till the end of the season, see how the log looks then, see what we're looking like in terms of where we end up finishing up if we do come away with any silverware, which I wouldn't put money on it at the moment. So, that kind of thing. And I think that's probably what we should do, is hold on. We have in the past been the kind of club to pull the trigger at the wrong time, bring in a manager. We don't time our managerial changes very well. This feels very much to me like if we got rid of Mourinho, we'd get in the next Tim Sherwood. And the risk of doing that at this time of the season is that you naturally get a bit of a bump from the new manager. And then it looks so good that you sign him up for a long-term deal. And then next season, we've got this numpty who doesn't know what he's doing. And then we're going to be in the Sherwood situation again. And I think, I would almost say I'd like to see us kind of accept that we're probably not going to get top 4 this season. There is some potential in cup for cup silverware that we could maybe focus on, and then kind of reevaluate in the off season and see what managers are available who'd be willing to come to Spurs that could maybe put us over to the next level. And also, I think that the important thing has to be also holding on to a certain core of our players. And I think that should be the main focus of the club, is kind of saying what's going to work best to make sure that next season we get the best out of Kane and Son and Ali if he's still around, and the Ndombele and Aurier and these guys who are now suddenly really performing and playing well for us. I'd like us to have a strategy that incorporates that, rather than just the typical Spurs thing, which is we did that thing for a while where we would go foreign manager, not working, bring an English manager, that doesn't work, foreign manager, English manager. And we'd and then we ended up with sort of, AVB to the Sherwood in that. And I think, it's
sorry, Matt. I'll tell you what, Matt, you want to, it's obviously an English manager next, so you can have Steve Bruce off me and I'll take Mourinho.
Guys, on that note, I just want to interrupt quickly. Chris has got to go, so I just want to say thank you very much, Chris, for joining us. We really appreciate your presence.
Thanks a lot, mate.
We have a little something coming your way after this, so just keep a lookout, and it will be coming. So just want to say thanks again, and good luck with everything.
Absolute pleasure, James. Thanks very much. No, real pleasure. Really enjoyed it. And I'm glad that I got to skip out before you started talking about Manchester United winning. Perfect timing, really.
Well played, Chris.
You're sneaky. All played, Chris. Well played, Chris.
See you later.
Cheers, Chris.
Cheers.
Right,
so you don't want to say anything about West Ham? This guy.
No, we can't talk about West Ham. You can talk about him quickly.
I'm just thinking, do you guys realistically think that West Ham can finish top 4?
No.
Look, they're on the in. They're on the in.
Biggest team in London.
No.
Biggest team in London. Biggest team in London. They're number 4 on the log.
Look, I'm looking at Spurs. I won't lie to you. I thought, currently the highest rank. But when I watched the game, honestly, I think genuine Spurs, they literally they were lethargic first half, exactly what Matt said. And just to add on to it, the second half, Spurs definitely, like the one Harry Kane, where Bale put through Harry Kane, and Son was open on the wing. But Harry Kane takes an extra touch. But even now, after taking an extra charge, the pass was wrong. They could have still finished and buried it. It just wasn't their day. I don't know what it was, but I still don't feel that. I mean, look, they should have beaten them, and they could have in that match. They just didn't put anything behind the net, and I just don't see. I can't. Oh yeah, I don't think they'll win it. I don't think they'll end up top 4. I think someone else, maybe even Arsenal, will come up there, but not West Ham.
Arsenal.
I mean,
you've
let's not be silly now.
Throw Arsenal in, guys. Like I understand if you said Liverpool.
I mean,
could
Arsenal are
come
going
back,
to finish top 4, so are Fulham.
It's true.
But let's move on to the Arsenal sort of Man City game. Mwanga, what did you think? The lineup yeah.
Can I just say something? I think this is the kind of game where it makes you want to check where there isn't some kind of match fixing going on in English football, because Arsenal seemed to. The goal was so early, it was the 3rd minute, and Arsenal were like, "Oh well, we've lost now," and they did nothing for the whole game.
Yep.
It was like Arteta and Guardiola had shook hands before, like, "I'm going to win this run, right?" And he's like, "Yes, thank you kindly, sir."
No, Matt, you didn't do it right. It's like, Arteta, I'm going to win this game. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yes, sir.
That's just to explain how, for me, Arsenal, what's frustrated me for all these years is that every time we go up against, and I'm pretty sure our record is bad. I've not looked at it, but I'm pretty sure our record is bad against the top 6. Every time we go up against them, it's one way. It's one way. We did well against Chelsea, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple I'm probably missing out, but I don't think it's too many. But every time we go up against the top 6, we get cleaned out, and we don't show that we want to win this game, and that's what's frustrating me for all this time. And now we come against Man City now. We've got nothing to lose. We are 10th on the table. Man City on top. We've got nothing to lose. Arteta, Smith Rowe, he's been playing well ever since he's been started. Why not start the guy? You start Odegaard, you got from Madrid, who's not even starting in Madrid. I'm not saying Odegaard's a bad player, but Smith Rowe has proven himself. I think more than Odegaard has. Yeah, you have to start the guy. You have to start the guy. Pepe as well, also on and off. The match they played previously, Pepe was on the bench. I would have gone the same team. That team was all over the pitch, creating opportunities left, right, and center. And then now you want to go change it. Then also now David Luiz. I don't know if David Luiz was injured or what. I never heard anything. But then they go and start Pablo Mari, who hasn't started the game in a long time. And now you're starting him against Man City, who are going to load the box with 10 men, probably all 10 men in the box. You want to start Pablo Mari, who hasn't started the game in how long? It doesn't make sense to me. I understand. Man City is a good team. You lose the game, and you probably would have lost the game anyways. But the manner in which you lost it, I mean, I was actually, to be honest with you, we were having a braai downstairs. We're like, okay, we're gonna sort this out. We sorted out the braai. We sat down, ready to start. We started the game off. We're still having our chats. 1 minute in, next thing you know, Sterling is jumping, holding.
Free header.
Holding turns around, and Sterling's probably in line with his face, and he's headed the ball in the back of the net. I was like, no ways. What the hell's going on here? And then from there on, it's flat. Like next 2 minutes, you could see, oh no, we could actually do this game a lot. So I went out. Actually, I went to go buy some coal. Come back, and there's Kevin De Bruyne almost slotting a ball in the top corner there. I mean, Arsenal looked flat. I can't even. Look, for me, a team that has nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. You go and you play like that. I want to being respectful for you guys as well.
They just wanted to take the 1-0, man. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, I was going to say, City seemed to know Arsenal were going to do that too, because City also, they scored the goal and then took their foot right off the gas. They knew Arsenal weren't going to come at them. So they were also playing, it felt like a practice game. Which in a way was like damning. Like they were almost saying to themselves, it's fine. If Arsenal get lucky somehow and get a goal, we'll just get another one. Like they weren't like... Yeah.
Do you think when Arsenal were looking for the manager and they were sounding out Arteta, Guardiola was like, yes, this is great for me. This is great for me. It's like, Arteta, you know what to do when we play you. Because I want this title next season. He's like, yes, boss. Yes, boss.
Yeah. It must be something like that.
like they when I was when I still did remind when I did make when I went back, I referred back to the FA Cup final where was the FA Cup final where Arsenal beat
semi-final.
The semi-final, yeah, where Arsenal beat Man City. I even felt in that game we beat them, but yeah, it was a very touchy one, but everyone, we come up with the win, everyone's happy. But now here it is, we in the league again, and no, it just literally showed. I mean, I wasn't too wrong about that. I mean, now they come here, they scored an early goal, and for me, I've always said, I mean, I think most teams would prefer scoring towards the end of a game than in the beginning. So early because you've got the whole game, that's the game to cover that lead. So now Man City scored the first goal. It's still, you pretty much level because it's only like 3 minutes that's gone. You still got time you got the whole game to score a goal, but Arsenal were nowhere. But I think a huge part of our performance is also based on the players we started. We didn't play the guys who started are not the same people that are winning us the games and looking dangerous. I mean, Aubameyang's performing with Smith Rowe, Saka, and all those guys around him. And I think the only change I would have agreed with is Elneny starting. The only thing I would have agreed with, but the rest I don't know. The other changes I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking. Yeah. He's the only one who don't know.
Crack cocaine, maybe. No?
With regards to Pums's question here about what difference, like, just in my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree, but I think it's just mainly just consistency. They are consistent week in, week out, and I think it's exactly what you got from Liverpool last year, where, I mean, you were winning your 1-0 games, you were winning your games 2-1. There's a sense of cruise control in their play where if they're going to get in the lead, they're more than likely going to win the game. They've been fortunate with less injuries than probably the other teams. And when we talk about consistency in a league that's so crazy, I mean, the most inconsistent league of all time, if you are consistent, you are generally going to find yourself near the top. And that's why there's a 10-point gap.
But also valid thing. Sorry, Nick, I just want to say, like, a valid point with Matt pretty much raising, this kind of looks like match fixing. I can't, like, for the last couple of weeks watching Man City play, it's felt like that. As soon as they've gone one up, all the sides just roll over and die, and they're like maybe from Everton. Yeah, they just give up. They're like, well, let's save our legs for the next game because they're going to come here and win. It's almost like they've got that psychological advantage. But continue, Matt.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's just something. I mean, I think Nick is right. The consistency thing is huge. They are an unstoppable force at the moment. They just and they found that groove that they had. And the truth is, they've also been doing it on and off for the last sort of 3 or 4 years. They've gone through some bad patches, and Peppers time and time again. We call him a bald fraud, and then he shows he actually knows what he's doing. Yeah. And I think it's another one of those things where he's turned around, and he's drilled the side again, and they've found that consistency, and they just go and go and go. And I think what frustrated me about the Arsenal game was that you expect a lot of sides to roll over against City and kind of just accept defeat. But you think Arsenal, I mean, Wonga's right. They had nothing to lose. I think they could have gone on and maybe lost 4-3 or whatever, but they should have given it a go. But they just looked like a side that was like, let's not get any injuries. Let's not get overly exerted. Let's get through this game and then try the next one, which is really annoying because after that game they had against Chelsea, they almost turned a corner. It was like Arsenal were kind of re-emerging to kind of say, actually, we're not dead yet. We could still be top 6, top 4, maybe, whatever, as much as we joke about it. And now this just kind of proves the point that actually they are far from where they were and they're accepting of it, which is really weird.
Matt, the funny thing is, like, Matt, like you mentioned that, it could be top 6 or a joke, whatever. But, you look at the numbers. Those guys, everyone's literally, like, the time in December when we were winning, everyone was losing. This week was that week again, and it's literally happened before you've played. Everyone has dropped points before you played. Yeah. You've got nothing to lose. And then the one thing doesn't make sense. Your defense, you put Pablo Mari there, the guy who hasn't played for a while, and you want to put that guy. You want to put someone like, I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm not saying he was the reason for it. But I mean, you're breaking a lot of connections and things that helped you from where you guys from this form that's been going on. And we could have, like, honestly, you look at the numbers and you win this game, you game even draw, even get 1 point from this game. You go one better than you were. In fact, you go one better than Liverpool, Tottenham, Tottenham. Who else was there? I think Man United won, but many of the teams there, you go Leicester won as well. But you go
Chelsea
on top of those. Chelsea, yes, you go on top of the wall. You go draw Chelsea, but you gain a point in them. But now you've flipping wasted it. Like it's frustrating.
It's a wasted opportunity. I think.
I love this.
Touching on what Pums was asking in terms of what's different with City, man. I just think Man City as well is that the way the season started. You know, Man City was similar to Man United in that they started a week later because obviously they were playing in Europe. So then, because they started a week later, things didn't start off properly. And then once they did start, you know, they were on the back foot. There's all these new signings, you know, at the back especially. Then somewhere it just clicked, and then the players just started playing well together. And then he just knew that he needs to play Stones and Diaz. And since he's played Stones and Diaz, Stones has played 21 games this season, and they've won. I think 20 of the games this season. You know what I mean? So that partnership in itself has been amazing for Man City. And when they score, guys, you can't do anything about it. And they always score in the first half, as I always say. First half, if you deny them a goal in the first half, you've got a chance because they score in the first half. And then it's like you give up. You're like, let me just give up. Let me just damage the reputation.
It's a real stranglehold. It's like it's like a kid seeing a grown ass man, and he's like, you know, this guy's going to give me a proper hiding. Let me just hide, roll over, and take the beating before it gets a lot uglier if I fight back. But let's talk about fighting back, guys. The next game we need to talk about, and Nick's been these generic English names, dude. I keep getting confused between Nick and Matt.
English.
It's bad.
Again, name's not English. Nick is not English. It's either Russian or Greek.
But if it's shortened, it's like Nick, Matt. I think it's the letters, the amount of letters there are. I think that's what I'm getting confused with. Like if I say Nicholas, then I don't think I'm going to get confused. From now on, I'm calling you Nicholas. Nicholas.
Okay.
Nicholas and Matthew.
Nicholas and Matthew. No, then I'm going to get confused again. Nicholas, take us through this game.
Can I leave as well, please?
Maximum.
But you guys played well, man.
Nah.
In the second half.
Silla, please, man. Take me serious, bro.
But De Gea made saves in the second half.
Yeah, I made saves, but it's just the same old nonsense week in, week out. You know, you've got Steve Bruce laughing with Ologola Solskjaer after the game, as if he doesn't think that we, you know, as if you know, Fulham aren't 2 points or 3 points behind us.
2 or 3, yeah.
So I'll tell you what, I gave these stats the other day. I don't know if I told you them on the show, but you know, we didn't. Gave Alan Shearer 8 games. We gave Rafa Benitez 10 games. 13 games left, and we were in the same position with both of our relegations. The sad reality is our run of games compared to the rest, compared to a Brighton, Burnley, and Fulham. I mean, we've got the worst run, and unfortunately, we are getting pulled into something where I think we literally sleepwalking to our death, really. And it was Mike Ashley came out today, or a news report came out today that Newcastle United is on the bottom of his list of business interests because he's trying to fix a situation with one of his holding companies. I think it's House of Frasers, which is his clothing brand, and he's not panicking. He's mates with Steve Bruce. And for me, it's not necessarily the fact of the matter that, you know, I think we've got a better squad than a lot of the squads in that area of the league. They're not being coached. We don't have a process. We get the ball. We either pump it forward. There's no players around them. And then defensively, you know, a guy who was a centre-back winning the league as a captain for Man United doesn't know how to teach him how to defend. You know, Rafa Benitez, give him credit. He taught us how to be pragmatic and hard to break down. We are completely the opposite. So unfortunately, you know, the writing is on the wall unless something happens. But in my opinion, if he is this savior of a fan of a coach, if you want to describe in that way, who loves the club so much, he would walk because it's not good enough. It's not good enough for the size of our club and for what we deserve, in my opinion. I know I say it every week. Yeah. You know, I can talk about positives. I can talk about, say, Maximum, but he's by himself with maybe an Almiron, and then you've got a Wilson that's out. Where are we going to score our goals? We don't score goals.
Almiron was quite bright, eh? He was quite bright on the night.
He is, but I mean, you're going to say that against the Man United side who lost to Sheffield United. You would expect a team like Newcastle to take the game to them. Man United are clearly the better team, but yes, we did it in patches, but we're going to play like that against a Brighton on the weekend. We're not going to get the points. We're going to play against a team in and around that area. We played Fulham on the last game of the season. There's 10,000 fans allowed in that stadium, majority Fulham fans. What's the outcome of that game if it goes to the last day? I don't see it happening. Not with Steve Bruce in charge, because I just don't see there's a voice on the side there that the players can actually trust. And I know from a coaching perspective, I want to earn the trust and the respect for my players. I don't think the players respect him. And I wouldn't, to be honest with you. I wouldn't.
Well, you said I remember it was a couple of weeks ago, the first time you said you saw Liverpool sleepwalking towards relegation. At the time, they were still a bit further from the relegation battle, and I remember thinking at the time, like, maybe not. I think maybe that's a bit
Liverpool,
a bit much. But
Newcastle.
I do mean Newcastle. I mean, let me not write off Liverpool. They have a particularly bad patch, but I think they'll survive. They've got enough to stay up. But
just enough.
No, I remember you saying that about Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, and at the time I was thinking I overreacted a bit, a bit emotional. Yeah. But now I'm looking at it now, and the closer it gets, I'm thinking, shit, they really could be in for a tough one. Because you also look at the sides underneath you who are finding some form, Fulham in particular. They really are finding their feet. And I think, if it goes to the last day, I mean, at this rate, you might be lucky if it goes to the last day.
No, exactly. And I think, Matt, that's exactly what I think, I've spoken to a lot of people outside of the show. I've seen this movie before. Honestly, I've seen it. We've been in between. At one stage in the one season, we were between 9th and 14th for majority of the season, and then we just started free falling. And right now, I look at all these fixtures and I don't see where we're going to get any results, especially without our goal scorer, and with a leaky defense with what we have. I mean, there's just no cohesiveness. There's no drive. We're giving away stupid fouls. There's no direct approach in which we want to play. Is it long? I don't mind if you want to be direct, but then coach your team to be direct. I'll give Sam Allardyce a little bit of credit. He doesn't tell his players to play. Then you've got Steve Bruce coming out saying, no, we're trying a new thing where we're trying to keep the ball. He doesn't know how to keep a ball. He doesn't. So rather just play to what you kind of know. And I don't know. It's just, I watch football now, just hoping that we can get to probably 38 points should be fine. I hope that we can maybe just get a result. I didn't think we'd get anything against Man United when it was 1-1. What was it? 1-1 at half time. I thought, hey, maybe. But as soon as that next goal goes in, it's almost like when City score, it's done. Because where are we going to get anything else from? We don't have our top goal scorer on the pitch. He takes, say Maximum off, who's the hottest property on the yellow side. We were wearing yellow on the day against Man United. He takes him off.
Was it maybe the COVID stuff? Has he finished a game, like a full game?
But I don't care. As a coach, you play your best player, and something's going to come from it. He had COVID in November, bro. He had COVID in November. The only one who's bringing something to us. He wants to manage him for what? We're managing him so we can play in the championship. He's going to fucking leave us.
Definitely, he'll be gone. I think he could do well at. I think he could do well at Spurs. But I think you did have a chance, man. I think I've always said that our defense is vulnerable, especially when it's Maguire and Lindelof starting together. You know what I mean? Like you saw the defensive header that Maguire had. Like you can't be heading the ball back into the crowd. You know what I mean? Where you don't know who's going to be out there. You head it back so that it goes towards maybe the touchline or goes for a corner or something like that. And Almiron and Saint Maximin did give me a bit of concern when they were attacking and they looked good. But my team, I think we've been drawing a lot of games recently, so it was good to get a win. I think if we played a team that with a bit more ambition, we would have had a trickier game. Let's say maybe like a Brighton, something like that. A team that can at least try to do something, because and I think that's what you're saying with Newcastle is that there's there's glimpses of hope, but it's just not consistent enough. You know, I
Yeah.
know that Brighton lost yesterday, but I watched that game Brighton played yesterday with Palace. Brighton were all over the place. They were all over Palace. They had 25 shots at goal, but cool, they lost in the last minute. But they should have won the game. You know what I mean? And you can say, okay, no, cool, we're just unlucky. Whereas Newcastle, apart from the Everton game, you haven't really seen them like performing at that level and saying, okay, no, I can see this team actually surviving. Whereas, Fulham is just,
They're
trying. They're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'll tell you what. I think in just to bring up a VAR situation, I think we should have had a penalty. I don't know if it would have changed much, but Harry Maguire absolutely blocks Jamal Lascelles. They spoke about it for about 10 minutes after the game, and I actually missed the incident. And Harry Maguire, and why I actually remembered it is because, he is probably the thorn in your backline. I think, as much as Lindelof is, maybe him with a new partner might be better, Harry Maguire, but he's not even looking at the ball. And he's looking at the man, and he just puts his arm across him. And the next man there is Jamal Lascelles about to head of the ball. And I think the game was 0-0 at the time. And, Newcastle go ahead. You never know. I listen, we were outplayed completely on the day. But, he does take those types of risks. And I think he is,
unnecessarily,
going forward. You guys are you guys are second in the log at the moment. If you want to go on and challenge to maybe win a title, I think you need to make big changes there. And I think that will help you.
That's the first place. That's the first place we need to look at. The first place, if we sign one player, we must sign a new centre back, and then decide who is the person that he's going to pay that new centre back with. It's obviously going to be Maguire, because Maguire is the captain, and that's the thing that I hate, is that it's almost like because he's captain, he cannot be benched. So it's almost he's played every single minute in the Premier League this season.
They're trying to justify the price tag. They're trying to justify the price tag.
Man, with price tags, man, we've come across so many players that have these huge price tags, and cool, it's not their fault, because at the end of the day, they weren't the ones who created the price tag. But then the fact that he's a captain, he can't be removed. Like, Havertz is benching. All these other big money signings are benching at their respective clubs. Pogba was benching at some point earlier in the season, and then obviously he played better. But he's our most expensive player. But bench the guy.
Some of the lads brought it up on the weekend about Andy Carroll and why he's not playing, and I think I brought it up previously. Jolinton is a big issue at the club, and I think Steve Bruce has a lot of pressure to play the lad. He came in 40 mil, and you play Carroll. Carroll gives you, what you see is what you get, but he will give you that effort, and he will probably retain the ball a lot more than him. He's this young Brazilian who's done absolutely jack shit since he's been here, and I don't know. We've got to wait until April until we see Callum Wilson. God help us.
Sure.
God help us.
2 months.
Right.
Yeah. What about the...
Okay, go ahead, Wonga. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to ask Silo about that the Rashford penalty.
Yeah, it was a soft penalty.
Yeah, I think it was not even soft. It wasn't even a penalty. I didn't even see contact.
There was a touch. There was a touch, but it's not like a challenge that's going to make a man fall like that. But there was a touch.
You've seen him given.
You've seen him given.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
But that was horrible. He's literally stood on his foot. He's literally stood and he's about to run, then he just...
Guys, it comes down to that premise that I mentioned earlier, like episodes back, was that defenders can't afford to make any mistakes.
Yeah.
A striker is allowed the affordance to have 100 shots at goal, and he scores the one, and he's a freaking hero. A defender mistimes his tackle now to the centimeter. It doesn't even have to be enough contact, but the fact that he's mistimed it, it's deemed illegal. And that, for me, there's a huge discrepancy between what is an actual foul and what is mistimed, and a defender genuinely impeding a player and a player taking advantage of the situation. It's sad in like modern football where they go, sure, modern football, that's a foul. Yeah, I've seen that given. Yeah. The referees are buying into that, and that for me is ridiculous. That's I always look at it and go back and be like, because I think from a defending sort of perspective, because I was thrown into so many shitty situations like that. But you genuinely attempting. I mean, it's easy for me to go down as well. You know what I mean? But it's one of those that where Has anyone here played water polo?
Yeah.
Yes, you play the foul. Yeah.
You play the foul, and that's exactly what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah. But I mean, it's interesting that a Liverpool fan would talk about penalties being given unfairly. But
You know.
yeah, but
That's how,
Hey,
that's how it is.
but yeah, you know.
I call those out. Dude. I call those out. I'm not trying to like seem like I'm a purist or anything, but when I see Salah do it,
He
it
tried to claim
frustrates
he tried to claim another one on the weekend, and the ref was like, no.
yeah, which was ridiculous,
'cause-
right? Did you see it? It was ridiculous. It was like,
It's just a touch on his arm, and it's like,
but there was another one with Mane. There was another one with Mane where there was genuine contact. He goes down. It's never a penalty, in my opinion, but it's enough contact to go back and analyze it and be like, well, screw it. If you're giving all these other things, then why aren't you considering that? And I think that for me is the thing where you're like, well, if you're fucking up the game so much, then why isn't that? Like, why aren't you consistent with all the sort of misdemeanors that you're giving here? And that for me is
No, it's true.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, there needs to be consistency. Yeah, but yeah.
not that I wanted anything from that in the first place. I thought the game was gone long ago. But you know what I mean? And that penalty that Nick's come out saying the Calvert-Lewin sort of wants a penalty. I mean, that's
you can see why it was given.
I agree. I think it's a penalty.
you can see why it's given, but at the same time, it's a defender
But
coming back,
Claudio,
making a desperate attempt.
Claudio, it's if you know,
The guy's
I'll
not
give
even
you an
ahead.
example. If you're not looking at the player and there's a player that runs next to you and tries to attempt to get the ball, but you can't see him, and you take a swipe at the ball and you try and kick the ball, miss the ball completely, and you kick his leg that you don't see come around you, it's going to be a foul.
Wow.
If I
You know,
kick the
it's
leg.
unfortunate. Yeah, if you kick the leg.
Yeah,
So
if I've kicked the leg, but not if the
Did
guy's
he trip over his? Did he trip over his?
The guy's
He
run
tripped-
straight
he tripped-
to
he
him,
tripped
bro.
over. He tripped over his back, but then
When must he run?
How
When
many
must he run?
times?
Must he
But how many
sidestep?
times? But how many
Can't
times is
sidestep
there a
in that
scenario
position.
where, oh, come on, man. It wasn't even like he wasn't, he's literally need the guy in the head and he's trying to avoid him or whatever the scenario is, but not because he's in the way, it's a foul. And you know, the thing is like,
I think simply because that ball was spilt by Allison and there's an open
It's
goal.
about to score.
Ball into.
No, it's true.
about to goal. Yeah,
100%.
There's an open goal to be passed into.
True.
Open.
That's why.
Open.
That's why.
Open.
Yeah.
Stop
I think
when
again
that
it
ball-
comes back to
when
consistency.
he falls
though.
over him, there's an open goal. He passes that straight into an open net.
Yeah, I like Jason's comment. The championship is waiting for Newcastle. We can end it off with that. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for speaking some logic on the show. No,
He should have been sent off. Let me boil your blood even more.
Jeez, I don't even go down that path. I just think it's nuts. It's like the Oaks generally. I get like, again, if we're going by letter of the law and all this other sort of stuff. But also, here's the other thing that I find quite interesting is in that scenario, the VARs obviously told him, go check this again. They pulled this up going, listen, there's something clearly not 100%. There isn't 100% conviction here. Go check it again. He then runs to the monitor and he doesn't look
give
at
it initially. Did he give it initially?
He gave it. Yeah, he gave it.
did give it.
He gave it, and
VAR
then he went to look at the monitor.
But the monitor that he looked at was the one angle within a couple of seconds, and he saw it, and he was like, "Cool, I'm gone." So he
was
didn't
happy
even
with the
take it
decision.
into account. Yeah, he was happy with the decision, so he didn't. And that for me is like, well, then what's the point then? Honestly, what's the point? If you're not even going to look at it, don't even say it. Just say, well, stuff you. Now I'm actually giving it courtesy because they told me to look at it, but you look at it 10 seconds. So that for me was something, again, the game was gone. It wasn't like we were going to come back from the 1-0 down. But at the end of the day, I was just like, geez, guys, come on. You know. Anyway, final thoughts, everybody, before we go.
Trent, what a dirty player.
No, he is. He does have moments. He does have moments. I'm not gonna lie. He's the type of player who sticks a leg out every now and then when no one's watching. So
Nah,
he is
but
that-
it was a good show with Chris. I think for all the viewers, it was
Definitely.
quite
Great
an
insight.
experience to hear, and always good to see the lads. And we'll see you guys again on Thursday.
Yeah, I think next time we need to get a guy from Arsenal Fan TV, you know, but just we need to make sure they don't scream and shout.
Yeah.
All right, guys. And on that note, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And those who generally come here religiously on a week or week to week, we really appreciate you. We are grateful. And if you don't know what to be
Be cool.
Be cool.
oh wait, you guys got that. You nailed it. Yeah. Have a fantastic evening, guys.